As we have mentioned, the new Pope is from Chicago, and this moment has special meaning for the Church in the United States. Joining us now is Montse Alvarado. She is President and COO of EWTN News, and we're joined by the Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, Patrick Kelly. Great to see you both in Rome. Supreme Knight, I will go to you first. You have met the new Pope, Pope Leo XIV. Give us your reaction to the news today and tell us about your meeting with him.
Well, I am very encouraged and happy about Pope Leo XIV. I have to say, I've met with him several times. He's a very easy person to talk to. I think as an American, there's very little, there's no language barrier whatsoever. I think he's a very balanced man. When you talk to him, he's very intelligent. So I couldn't be happier about this. I think it's a very, very good thing for the church, what happened today.
Montse, Pope Leo XIV, he emphasized peace and unity in his first address, calling for the church to be one that builds bridges and seeks dialogue. What do you think that says about his vision for the church?
It says a lot about his vision for the church, and I think we'll see most of that in the first writing that we see from him, either his first apostolic letter or his first exhortation. But peace was something that came up a lot in the general congregations. Unity is something that came up in the general congregations as well as a continuation, as part of this, it's a dirty word that Dr. Bunsen likes to use a lot, hermeneutic of understanding the continuation of these pontificates. I know that you can hear the crowd in the background. They're all still here out in the square, so it is remarkable to see the enthusiasm with which he was received, and that will be a mark for his papacy as well. Encountering the Italian people in their language, choosing to speak to them in that way rather than speaking to them in English.
I think it was very significant that he did not speak in English, right? Because I think we'll be hearing from him in English a lot, but I think today he was Pope for the universal church. And I think it was important. You know, for many of us, we thought we would never see an American Pope in our lifetime. I think I speak for everyone when I say that. And it was amazing. I mean, this was a conclave of surprises, I would say, brought to us by a God of surprises.
Amen. I certainly said as much, that we wouldn't have an American Pope, so here we are.
Yeah.
I think we're all still in shock and processing this huge, massive news. And Patrick, how will this mission of dialogue that was described in the first couple of moments of the Holy Father resonate with the Knights of Columbus around the world?
Well, I think that mission of dialogue and that mission of charity is the thing that will really resonate with Knights of Columbus all over the world, and all the things that we do for the poor and the vulnerable. Obviously, Pope Leo XIV, I'm getting used to saying that,
yes,
has a heart for that, right? Because of his many, many years in Peru, and that has come up in my conversations with him too. So I think there'll be a great affinity between our new Pope and the Knights of Columbus. Certainly, that's my job one for the coming weeks.
And just to follow up on that, Patrick, Pope Francis was the first Jesuit to lead the Catholic Church. Now Pope Leo XIV is the first Augustinian. Do you see this as a trend, and what does he bring to the papacy from that religious order?
Yeah, I don't know if it's a trend, but it is surprising. I don't think anyone thought a cardinal from a religious order would be selected. But I think what you see is with him, with Cardinal Prevost, now the Pope, he was prior general of the Augustinians. I think that gave him a global view of the church, right? So I think that's a real advantage that he brings, and that's, I think, what a religious order brings to the papacy.
Montse, this will be a question we continue to unpack, but what are the challenges Pope Leo XIV is going to face right now?
A lot of challenges. I think that he's coming into a global moment that is full of confusion. We know that there are a lot of challenges associated with the definition of life in Europe. They were outlined in the general congregations, the challenges to the Vatican, the need for someone who is strong on administration, someone who will come in and rework the issues associated with the Vatican Bank. So he does have challenges here at home, I would say, as Bishop of Rome in his home diocese, and then challenges around the world in places where the church is persecuted, dealing with the wars that are ongoing, where he has to be an emissary of peace. And then again, also with some of the mess, as we like to say, hacer lío, which he would have internalized so deeply, knowing Spanish and knowing the Latin American culture, that Pope Francis left behind in terms of some confusion that certainly could be clarified and that he would have heard from, articulated by his brother cardinals, especially those coming from Africa.
And Montse, speaking of challenges, as then Cardinal Prevost, our Pope called out Vice President J.D. Vance in a post saying, J.D. Vance is wrong. Jesus doesn't ask us to rank our love for others. And this followed a Fox News interview where he listed how Christians rank whom they love. Montse, what kind of relationship do you think our new Pope will have with the Trump administration?
I don't know exactly what kind of relationship he would have with the Trump administration. I think, Patrick, you said it best when we were talking earlier, when you said this is a moment where you will push the reset button on all relationships. But what I will say about the now Pope Leo XIV is that as an Augustinian, but also as someone who has a teaching background, a canon lawyer, a man of method, more than likely we might see a Pope that is engaged in the digital space as a teacher to try to clarify some things and give an opportunity for dialogue in a way that we haven't seen before. So that's a perfect example of how he might be preparing himself to bring that clarity on church teaching to bear that so many of the cardinals voiced in the general congregations.
Well, before we leave you tonight, I just want to ask, any final thoughts on this historic day?
Yeah, Catherine, I do have a final thought, and it's that, in the last couple of weeks, we've read a lot about, about the Pope's personality, about John Paul II, about Pope Benedict, about Pope Francis. I think what we have is you really have to think the leader of the church brings their own personality to this job. And it's a crushing job, right? So those of us who work closely with the church, we read the Pope's schedule every day, but that's only what you see publicly. There's a whole host of meetings that occur that are private, and it's a very difficult job. And I think with a person as young as Cardinal Prevost is, with the obvious energy that we saw today when he was out on the balcony, I think we're in very, very good stead, and I personally couldn't be happier about where we are.
Yeah, and I'll add my 2 cents here. I think there are 2 things that are really remarkable about today. Obviously, it is the Feast of the Apparition of St. Michael, and that is something that was very close to his predecessor in name as he chose it, and it speaks to how he thinks about the battle that we're in, I believe. And then second to that, I do think that asking everyone to pray the Hail Mary, really asking the global community that only shares one language, and that language is prayer, to come together in that moment when he knew that the eyes of the world were there, really tells us something about his pastoral heart, and I hope that that will develop and show over the next couple of years of his pontificate, God willing.
And a reminder to us to be praying for our Holy Father. Montse Alvarado, Patrick Kelly, Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus, thank you so much.
Thank you, Catherine.
Thank you, Catherine.